Hi guys, so I've been dry brushing for about the past 7-8 months, ever since that infamous slap chop video that I saw, and yeah, well, obviously I absolutely love it and it's giving awesome results. Which was made even easier a few weeks ago when you lovely guys suggested a textured dry brush palette. I'd never heard of one, didn't have a clue what it was, but yeah, made one up, and you guys seem to love it so much that you kind of asked me to make a 3D printed one, which obviously I obliged, and here it is. And this is available as a STL download over on my Patreon page. There's a link down below guys, go and give that a click if you want to sort of download one of these yourselves. So dry brushing really is simple and very effective, but I guess the question is, can you dry brush an entire miniature and get it looking like this? Well, that's what we're going to find out, but obviously we need to go back a few stages as we've kind of jumped the gun. So we'll go back to when the miniature was, well, still in the sprue. And as you can see, I'm going with these lovely Deathwing Knights. Obviously Orcs are my favourite, but the Space Marines are slowly catching up, mainly because of the big variety of Space Marines out there. And I love Paladin style looking ones, which these guys definitely are. So yeah, big pauldrons, big armour, power packs, all the rest of it, but swords and shields, which is just awesome. And I got these guys from the big box set Wrath of the Soulforged King, which I got from Chaos Cards. Don't forget guys, if you do want to sort of buy miniatures and get a discount, go and check out Chaos Cards and use my discount code down below to save yourself, well, a few pounds here and there. And then it's simply a case of cutting the pieces off the sprue, tidying them up, gluing them all together. So these guys went together really easy. There's actually 5 sort of in the box set, so I will be making the other 4 up at some stage. And these guys, as well as lots of other things that I'm painting, are available over on my eBay page. Yeah, link down below for that as well guys. So yeah, it didn't take long to obviously put him together. Love how he looks. I just love sort of shields and big armour and all the rest of it. And yeah, and that's a case of priming in black. And I'm always trying out new ones just to see which ones, well, work the best. So I've got this new one from Colourforge. It's a matte black. It goes on really well. And I have to admit, it's the first one where the miniature is, well, it is a matte black. I tend to find most of the blacks I use are, well, they're black, obviously. But yeah, they have a little bit of a shine or sheen to them. Whereas this one is definitely a matte black. Yeah, really pleased with how this one looks. So link in the description guys if you want to go and check out this one by the Colourforge. And now it's time to do some dry brushing, which obviously I'm going to do on my lovely textured dry brush palette with my, well, ugly mug on it. And I've been using this for about the past 2-3 weeks and yeah, absolutely love it. It's just really helpful and handy as you know exactly how much paint is left on the brush because, well, you're rubbing it over my lovely ugly mug and yeah, you can see exactly how much is left. So when you do go to use it on the actual model or whatever it is you're sort of dry brushing, yeah, you never get like big lumps or big clumps on it because, well, you've taken all that paint off, all the excess paint off, and it's now perfect to dry brush with. As always, I'm starting with a grey. One thing I do get asked quite a bit is how do I clean the brush before using obviously the next paint. What I generally do is I like to use a wet wipe. Just because I find these sort of softer and safer on the bristles, and yeah, it is just a case of, well, rubbing the dry brush on the wet wipe. Yeah, as simple as that. So doing like little circular motions, just keep doing this until, well, until you can tell there's no more paint left on the dry brush. And then yeah, then it's good to go for sort of, well, the next colour or whatever it is you're doing. So that's generally how I clean mine. If you know of a different way of cleaning them guys, let me know. I'm always up for sort of, well, hearing tips and tricks from you guys because I may be doing it wrong. So yeah, let me know in the comments guys, how do you clean your dry brush in between, well, the different colours you want to use. So I've given the model a good sort of 10-15 minutes just to sort of fully dry, even though because this is a dry brush, it does dry really quick, but I like to leave mine probably longer than I need to, just to make sure that the next sort of dry brushing I do doesn't sort of merge in with it or blend in with it too much. So yes, we've done the grey dry brushing and now we do a bit of white. And yeah, sometimes I do still check my thumb just in case. Generally don't do it half as much as I used to because I used to do it, well, all the time. My thumb was coated in dry brush, whereas obviously the texture dry brush palette is well, that's what it's for. Yeah, waffling on here. So yeah, obviously as you can see, I try and do circular motions as well, as I find this does help. You get less sort of streaky, powdery looking. So circular motions, where possible, does seem to give the a more even and consistent sort of dry brush to your miniature, which is pretty cool. The other good thing about using the wet wipe when sort of cleaning the dry brush is it keeps it a little bit moist, which does help when you then go to put the next sort of colour on. Yeah, it's really weird, but a moist dry brush seems to be best. So not wet, and obviously not fully dry, but yeah, a little bit of moisture in it. I do need to get one of those little sponges that I've seen some people use. Maybe in the next video I might have one of them. So I'm keeping my colour scheme pretty much the same as what I've seen most Deathwing Knights look. And I'm going with this Ushabati bone? Ushabati? Oh, I don't know, you guys might know. Yeah, as we all know, when it comes to sort of saying words, I trip over my tongue, something rotten. So as you can see, using a smaller dry brush, I've got to have quite a variety of sizes with the old dry brushes. And something I've seen other people always sort of say is use the biggest one you possibly can for what you're doing. Whether or not that helps or not, I don't know, because if you ever watch me painting, I generally use a much smaller brush than I probably should. This might be because of my eyesight, I'm not sure, but I do tend to prefer using a smaller brush to, well, anything that's sort of larger. And this might be the case of this. Say I'm using a fairly small dry brush here to sort of dry brush the miniature. But yeah, pleased with how it's looking. Say I love the fact that obviously the dark areas are going to stay dark. And that's what I love about the fact of priming in a black. Because then any areas you can't hit or can't reach will remain, well, nice and dark, which is pretty cool. So when it comes to using normal colour paints, I do have a whole variety from a whole, well, different range of companies. So yeah, the game colour ones, I have Army Painter war paints, I have Dungeons and Dragons ones, I have a few Vallejo ones as well. But it is a case of just using whichever colour, well, feels like it's going to suit my needs for what I'm currently painting. So this is where it is going to start getting tricky to sort of paint this miniature fully using the dry brushing. Just because, obviously, say this is a small dry brush, but it is still difficult to get into certain areas and to make sure you're not sort of, well, going over an area that shouldn't be whatever colour it is you're using. So this is where I was starting to think this possibly isn't a good idea or wouldn't work. But we'll keep persevering, we'll keep trying, because, well, that's how we learn. We learn by our mistakes and we learn by trying, so it's always worth trying something new. Which again, guys, that's why I love it when you guys leave comments, especially when you're sort of suggesting things that I've never seen, heard of or done before, because then it makes me then look on YouTube to sort of find out more about it, and then to give it a go myself. As I say, this hobby is fantastic. There's a great community behind it of loads of lovely people that are willing and happy to share what they know, so that we all sort of, well, we all kind of improve from each other, which is just awesome. So I didn't do too bad with the coverage of green there. Certainly a few areas that need touching up, but I thought I'd leave that for a little bit and then go on to, well, an area that's a lot easier to get to. This big old sort of scepter doobry what's it. So yeah, doing a bit of silver on that made it a lot easier, because obviously it's an area that I can get to quite easy. But then it was back to, well, trying to get to areas that weren't so easy. And I say this is where, even with a small dry brush, it's very difficult not to, well, to hit areas that you don't want to hit. And yeah, it was at this stage I finally gave in and thought perhaps I'd try to sort of bite off more than I can chew, and maybe I should try on a bigger model with less sort of nooks, crannies, bits and pieces in the way. Because even with a small brush like this, yeah, I just can't get in there. So dry brush, you've done your bit. Get the speed paints in here. Let's paint this properly now, because yeah, the dry brush just ain't gonna do it anymore. So I've got a good old few paints here that I think I'm going to use. These seem to be the main colours on these Deathwing Knights. And yeah, now we're going back to kind of like a slap chop method, I guess, even though we are going to be going over possibly more of a creamier colour than the white. But yeah, we should still be able to get plenty of difference in our speed paints, in the highlights, low lights, medium lights, dark lights. You know what I mean, guys, because you know I don't know any of the technical terms. I just enjoy painting. But yeah, so speed paints for the win. And as we all know, it really doesn't take too long at all to get miniatures painted. Say generally a miniature like this, well, 20 minutes, half hour possibly, by doing the old slap chop, prime in black, dry brush grey, dry brush white, get your speed paints or contrast paints, whatever you use. Yeah, slap them on and miniatures done in no time at all, which is just awesome. Especially if you are sort of doing any batch painting or making a full army, then yeah, this is definitely the way to go. As I won't be using these guys in any sort of kill teams, that's the other reason why I'm sticking these on eBay. So anything I do sort of make, paint, whatever, unless it is for kill teams and I'm going to be using it, then yeah, it'll be up on my my eBay page for you guys to sort of buy, or well, anyone to buy really. So as I am going to obviously sell this guy, he's on a normal base, but as well as going on the base, I want to make him a bit more special. So I'm going to make like a, well, kind of like a one-off miniature, well, diorama, just so this guy's got somewhere nice to sort of sit when not being used. So using my Anycubic Photon Mono 2, I printed off loads of these little bases, which are pretty cool. And obviously I'm going to have it so the guys can sit in this diorama, and then he can be sort of used in a game. So he's on the right size base, he's on a 40mm base, which is his correct size. So that fits in there nicely, so yeah, he'll look good for the diorama, and he can be playable as well. So I've got this lovely curved wall made for me by Fabricator Lairs. There's a link in the description, guys, go check them out, as they are the ones that made all the walls for my lovely Kill Zone board. Yeah, say check them out, guys, amazing sort of work they do. And say this wall, yeah, just looks awesome and will make for a lovely backdrop to sort of showcase, well, miniatures really. So obviously I'm doing this for this guy, but I'm looking at doing this for, well, a whole variety of people, as in making these kind of like sort of plinth based diorama whatsits, and then nice little backdrops to sort of go with them. So yeah, looking gorgeous. So if you did buy this, you would get the miniature and this little diorama backdrop. I say it's just a nice way to sort of showcase the miniature when it's not being used in, well, whatever game it is you're going to be using it in. And again, I've used the matte black by the Colour Forge. And I say, yeah, I've never used a matte black that's been so matte. Again, don't know what the technical term for it would be, but this seems more matter than any other black matte that I've used, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this time using the biggest brush I can find, which is a good old makeup brush. Don't worry guys, I do have plenty of others that I use on my face. This is just a spare one. And then yeah, doing a bit of the old bronze. So this is where obviously dry brushing really does work well on the black sort of primer. As yeah, doing a bit of dry brushing gives it a bit of an old sort of look to the metal or the walls. And yeah, I think this looks great. And so especially on the base as well. So even when I do make several of these kind of things up, the bases are always going to be this sort of dry brushed bronze effect, just because, well, I really like how it looks and think it's yeah, pretty awesome. So it's looking pretty good, but I want to make this look, well, a bit more sort of old and sort of, well, run down. So using the good old dirty down Verdigras, I always say it wrong, patina look. So yeah, this stuff is absolutely awesome. It does require a whole lot of shaking, guys. I know most things need a lot of shaking, but this, you really need to shake it, and then generally I keep it in my pocket to warm it up. And talking of warming up, yeah, if you warm up the item you're going to be painting as well, this makes it work, well, better and quicker. So I'm just using my my good old hot air gun, and it only takes a few seconds to, well, just warm it up, because obviously you don't want to melt it or anything. And then yeah, with this stuff, there's a variety of ways you can use it, but I find one of the best ways for me, yeah, put loads of it on, just slather it on here, there, everywhere. This stuff does dry really quick, so you're better off doing sort of like a panel at a time rather than trying to do sort of larger areas. And then once it is nicely coated in this, then I've got some water on standby, and then yeah, using the water just to sort of move it around. This helps thin it out in areas, and this just gives it a bit more of an uneven sort of look. So when it does dry, you will have sort of darker areas, lighter areas, and yeah, just a bit more natural looking because it is a bit more inconsistent. But as well as doing that, I then get a, well, this is going to sound really weird, I get a dry wet wipe, as in it's a wet wipe that's just been sitting around, it's nice and dry, and I can use that to sort of get off any excess. Again, just because you don't want too much on the flat panels, you really want it to go into the sort of nooks and crannies. And then yeah, good old hot air gun. You don't need to use this, you could just let it dry, but I like using this because it's, well, it kind of changes instantly in front of your eyes, which is just, say, how this works is just amazing. Again guys, link in the description to Dirty Down, the variety of rust effects they do, and I say this this Verdigras Patona, or Patan, oh guys, you know what I mean. But yeah, I just love how it looks, and yeah, instantly it's some old looking sort of copper that's oxidizing, which yeah, I just love. But again, this is why you want to do sort of panels on their own, because if you try and do the whole thing in one go, yeah, you would have bits that are drying quicker than others. So yeah, panel at a time. And then once that's done, it looks, wow, it looks awesome. I love it. I love how this thing looks. Again, I get super excited when things are super easy, but the end result is just wow. So yeah, it looks absolutely awesome. So now it's time to see this and the miniature in all their glory right now. Okay, so I think we kind of proved what we, well, probably already knew, and that is, yeah, trying to dry brush totally a miniature this size is a little bit impossible. There's too many small little bits and nooks and crannies, but I will be trying again on a much larger sort of miniature, maybe something like a dragon or a troll with definitely less nooks and crannies. But on the whole, I love how this miniature's come out. I love the little sort of single diorama piece that I've made. This is a great way of, well, showcasing single figures. So guys, let me know what sort of miniatures or especially bosses you would like me to do in this manner, as yeah, I definitely want to showcase more sort of miniatures, well, like this. And don't forget, this dude is available down on my eBay page, and if you want to get hold of my textured dry brush palette, yeah, simply become a patron and you get the STL file for that. And I am looking at adding new sort of files each month on, well, whatever projects that I'm working on. If you are new here and you like what I do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, as I do make videos, well, a few times every week. And a big shout out and thank you to my lovely patrons, as well as Chaos Cards, for helping support the channel. It really does mean so much to me. And don't forget to check out all the links down below to, well, most of the products that I've been using in this video. And leave comments down below on what you want to see me do next. Okay guys, that's it. Bye for now.